You are listening to the New Book of Daniel podcast. Hello and welcome to the New Book of Daniel podcast. My name is Daniel Bobinski and I will be your host on this adventure. Today is Friday the 13th, November 2020. Kind of a bookend. We started this whole little COVID fiasco on the previous Friday the 13th that happened this year. And it's probably a good way to end it up, just kind of bookend it with some other wonderful news. Today, I want to talk about three things in particular. One has to do with taxes, one has to do with our friend Anthony Fauci, and the other with our beloved President Trump. None of the news is really thrilling to me, but let me just jump right in with this taxes thing. Over at USA Today, there's a story that I actually came out on a couple other websites and sources a couple days ago, and I tweeted about it back then, just kind of thinking this was a kind of a joke that somebody was floating by, but apparently it's gaining traction. And what they're talking about doing is creating a privilege tax. It's if you work from home, it's a privilege, and they're going to charge you a 5% privilege tax to support workers who can't work at home. I don't know, you look at that and you say, it looks like redistribution of wealth, and that's exactly what it is. They're saying here that employees who choose to work remotely should pay a tax to help those workers on low incomes who cannot. They're talking about this program called What We Must Do to Rebuild, right? So the question comes down to who pays the tax, right? It says here that the employer will pay the tax if it does not provide the worker with a permanent desk. Otherwise, the employee pays the tax. Well, let's think about that for a second. If I'm an employer and I've got, say, 5 employees, and COVID comes along and I say, okay, well, let's work from home and we'll do this remotely. And I've got your 5 desks here in my office. And we work from home remotely and we find that we like it. We like working remotely and we're going to keep it that way, but I'll keep the desks here in the office just in case, you want to come in and get out of the house or whatever. We'll just do it that way. Well, if their plan here for the tax goes through, then it means that I, as the employer, are going to pay a 5% tax on every employee's salary because I'm providing you with a permanent desk. Just that you're choosing to work from home. But let's take it the other way. Let's say that I'm an employer and I've got 5 employees and COVID hits and we all go home. And then you guys decide, you know what, we like working from home. And I go, okay, well, I'll just sell these desks and you guys can choose to work from home. That's your choice, but okay, fine. And I sell the desks. Now I'm no longer providing you a permanent desk, and now the employee has to pay the tax. I don't know, on a scale of 1 to 10, that's probably like 9.5 on the crazy scale. They're looking at, the average salary of $55,000, the tax rate of 5%. That estimates out to about a $10 a day tax. And they're looking to raise $48 billion a year for this redistribution method, right? Who is going to collect this? Who is going to decide who gets the money? Who's going to distribute the money? This is going to be a nightmare. If you ask me, it's a nice way to create bureaucratic jobs. Of course, they do have the little caveat that this tax should only apply when the government doesn't mandate that you work from home. If you're choosing to work from home of your own free will, then you would have to pay the tax. And of course, the tax should exclude low-income workers and the self-employed. What's their reason for doing this? Well, they say that this sudden shift to work from home means there's a big chunk taken out of our economy because you're not going to work, so therefore you're not going out to eat at restaurants with your coworkers, or you're not going to after-work socials, or you're not buying gas and stopping and shopping along the way. And they say that you're receiving benefits without contributing to the infrastructure of the economy. It's just a bureaucratic power grab is all it is. Speaking of bureaucratic power grab, let's look at our Napoleonic figure, Mr. Anthony Fauci, who's been the head of the National Institutes of Allergy and Infectious Disease for nearly 40 years. He's bureaucratically entrenched and he loves power. Just all we had to do was watch him up at that stand peering over the top of the podium as he's trying to get the spotlight on himself. And I'll do a quick aside. I was at a meeting last month with somebody who knows Fauci, and I said, "What do you think his Achilles heel is?" And he said, "His ego." The dude is egomaniac. He's got this Napoleonic complex. Anyways, Fauci's speaking at the Washington National Cathedral with some other health experts about this quote unquote pandemic that we're experiencing. And he's talking with his UK colleagues, right? His United Kingdom colleagues. And he says, quote, "I was talking with my UK colleagues who are saying the UK is similar to where we are now because our countries have that independent spirit." And then he goes on to say, quote, "I can understand that, but now is the time to do what you're told," unquote. And I read that and I go, what the hell? You, Mr. Fauci, are unelected. You're a bureaucrat. And you are going to tell me what to do, that it's time for me to do what I'm told? Boy, I'm biting my tongue right now to keep this show PG. This is unreal. I cannot believe that this guy thinks that we're his children, that he's going to tell us what to do. Nobody elected this guy. And I'm going to guess that most folks don't realize that Mr. Fauci is on the Leadership Advisory Committee for the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation's Decade of Vaccines. And I would say that's kind of a conflict of interest, because when one of their doctors in New York contacted the White House and said, "Hey, we've got this treatment for COVID patients is working really, really well. It involves hydroxychloroquine and zinc and azithromycin. And how it works is the hydroxychloroquine enables the cells to absorb zinc better. And the zinc is what prevents viral replication. And the azithromycin is there to prevent bacterial pneumonia. So we're getting great success with this." So President Trump mentions hydroxychloroquine. And Fauci goes, no, we can't do that. And we need a study. And you could almost see him just totally winging it, trying to figure out some way to say, no. Never mind the fact that back in 2005, the National Institutes for Health, under which Fauci works, published a paper that found that hydroxychloroquine was effective in beating coronaviruses. My gosh, Mr. Fauci, could you just ignore the facts and well, I guess he did ignore the facts, because he's a puppet of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. But I'm digressing. This guy says that we're supposed to do what we're told. I'm sorry, you've got a huge conflict of interest, Mr. Fauci. I'm not listening to you for squat. Besides that, nobody elected you. Our laws in this country are created by our legislature. Those people are elected by us to represent our views, and they decide what the laws are. That's how the Constitution works. It doesn't work by you, Mr. Napoleonic complex bureaucrat, just saying that we have to do what we're told. Which I suppose leads me to my next beef, and that is with our President Trump. Today, there was a press conference on the White House lawn in which the president had some people involved in this virus vaccine getting up and talking about this vaccine that's now about to be distributed across the nation. Now, I was not originally a supporter of Donald Trump. I wanted somebody else, but Donald Trump got the nomination. And I have to say, long story short, that he surprised me. He made me a believer. I saw what he was doing. I really believe him to be a patriot. He wants to see people having, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness in accordance with the Constitution. Unlike, his opponent, who crowns himself the office of the president-elect, there is no such thing, who wants to mandate what we do in this world. But what's scary here, even though I've kind of gotten behind Trump, what's scary to me is that he's got the military involved in distributing this vaccine. That's scary to me. Why do I have a 4-star general in a civilized society, a republic, standing at a podium telling me that they're going to roll this out? Military personnel are going to be making sure that we all get this vaccine. I do not like what I see in those vaccines. I do not want to receive that injected into my body. No, I'm not going to do it. Sorry. As much as I have developed a respect for President Trump, I am not going to take his vaccine. So it is a little bothersome for me that Mr. Trump has engaged the military to roll out this vaccine. I don't like it. I really don't like it. And none of us should. Now, I do realize that there are very good people on both sides of the vaccine argument. That's fine. But I, for one, belong to the camp that says no. I want to wrap it up with that. This is Friday the 13th. My name is Daniel Bobinski, and you've been listening to the New Book of Daniel podcast. If you'd like to send me an email, just send it to newbookofdaniel@outlook.com. And of course, you can find me on all the social media platforms, also at New Book of Daniel. That'd be Parler or MeWe or Twitter or Facebook. And then, of course, if you want to read my political writings or my thoughts on what's going on in the world, you can go over to uncoverdc.com and also to redstate.com. All right, this has been Daniel Bobinski. I thank you very much for listening. I'll catch you on the next show. Until next time, be blessed.